cats and kittens, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you issue number 113 in the series, Metallo. And this is, I think, one of Superman's greatest villains in all of the DCU. A guy whose heart is literally made of kryptonite. Of course, we'll get to that shortly. First, for those of you who are aware of this character, chances are you know him from, as near as I can tell, his very first appearance on television in the old live-action Superboy television series. He appeared in the second season of that on an episode entitled Metallo, go figure. He went on to appear yet again in live action on Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. He was then realized in animated form on Superman, the animated series, in what I think is probably one of the best interpretations ever of the character. If you want to know more, check out that series. He then appeared in the animated DC movie Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, briefly in that. He went on to appear yet again in live action on Smallville, which used to air on the WB and then the CW and whatever it is now. He went on to appear yet again in animated form in The Batman, which was another cartoon show that aired on Kids WB for a while. He appeared in another DC animated movie. This time it was Justice League Doom, where he was a member of the Legion of Doom, and most recently appeared yet again as a cartoon on Batman, the Brave and the Bold, which used to air on Cartoon Network. And as you can see, his look on that series was highly influenced by what was his most recent look in the comic books at the time, which of course you can see is represented on the cover of the magazine and on the figure itself. And for those of you who are unaware of Metallo, well, that's why of course we're going to look at the magazine first, which will tell you everything you need to know about this one-time Army sergeant who became one of Superman's greatest foes. And then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. Another really nice figure in this series. I'm very excited to bring it to you. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy issue 113 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Metallo. First up, the character section. This magazine focuses primarily on one of the most recent retellings of the character's origin. We discovered that Superman encountered Metallo early on in his career when Clark Kent was still a brand new reporter with the Daily Planet. He, alongside his partner Lois Lane, managed to sneak into the unveiling of a brand new weapon that Lex Luthor and his company LexCorp had designed for the military, using a new alloy dubbed Metallo. This kryptonite-based alloy was used in the construction of an exoskeletal suit that was piloted by remote control. During the demonstration, which was atop the roof of the LexCorp building, the robotic suit lost control and accidentally threw a helicopter containing Lois Lane off the top of the skyscraper. Luckily, the newly dubbed Superman happened to be on the scene, successfully saving both Lois and the chopper from certain destruction. Lex Luthor, on the other hand, did not take kindly to being upstaged by what he perceived to be an alien invader, and it was then that he decided to take more drastic action. Luthor was then approached by Lois Lane's own father, a U.S. Army general, Sam Lane, who had the same fears about Superman that Lex did. General Lane helped Lex Luthor secure an arms deal with the United States government to help fund his new Metallo project, and Sam helped get to choose the pilot of the new Metallo exoskeletal armor, his most brutal and efficient officer, Sergeant John Corbin. We also discover that Corbin is infatuated with Lois, and is insanely jealous that she prefers Superman over him. Corbin used the kryptonite power source to weaken Superman to the point where bullets actually started to harm the superhero. Unfortunately, the bullets were still ricocheting off of him, with one of them ending up in the chest of Corbin, causing the mechanical suit to malfunction and explode. Mortally wounded, John Corbin allowed Lex Luthor to perform an experimental surgery where he would replace his heart with a kryptonite-powered micro-reactor, literally giving the Sergeant a heart of kryptonite. What he failed to mention was that he was also going to have to replace Corbin's entire body so that he was no longer fully human, but was now a cyborg. The magazine then goes on to talk about a number of different fights that Metallo has had against the Man of Steel. Each time, though, Superman somehow manages to overcome the kryptonite-powered supervillain. But each time he would take more damage and become less and less human. He had lost so much of his humanity he was even able to survive when Superman decapitated him on one occasion. The next time Superman encountered Metallo was when John Corbin teamed up with the alien artificial intelligence known as Brainiac. Brainiac was once again attempting to take over Metropolis and decided to enlist the aid of Metallo, making him giant-sized. Just when it looked as though Corbin was about to defeat the Man of Steel, Superman was aided by his friends, the Metal Men. It was team member Lead who encased Superman so that he was impervious to the kryptonite radiation. It's in the cemetery at Gotham City where Metallo encounters both Batman and Superman as he's attempting to dig up his body. The Man of Steel and the Dark Knight put up a good fight, but ultimately Metallo overpowers both of them when he uses a kryptonite bullet to take down the Man of Steel, and he simply beats Batman unconscious. Before he could regain his humanity, Corbin was kidnapped by Lex Luthor and was transplanted into yet another body, this one looking almost exactly as his human body once did. Luthor also installed a new kryptonite heart that would power Corbin's body that was not just green kryptonite, but also red, blue, and gold. Sergeant Corbin once again took on the codename of Metallo and was partnered with the evil sorceress Mirabai the Forlorn and Sergeant Benjamin Krull, also known as Reactron. Reactron, similarly to Metallo, wore a gold star suit which contained gold kryptonite that could shut down a Kryptonian's superpowers for 15 seconds at a time. Together, Metallo's team carried out General Lane's plan, which was codenamed Patriot. They managed to infiltrate the Kryptonian city of Kandor using Mirabai's powers, successfully overpowered both Supergirl and Mon-El, and carried out an assassination on one of Kandor's leaders. The next time we meet Sergeant John Corbin is after The Flash accidentally reboots the DC Universe, creating the New 52. In this New 52 universe, John Corbin is recruited by General Sam Lane and Lex Luthor to partake in an experimental program, codenamed Metal Zero or Metallo. In order for Corbin to pilot this exoskeletal suit, he has to actually interface with the onboard AI. Unfortunately, what the Sergeant didn't know was that Lex Luthor was secretly working with an alien entity known simply as the Collector of Worlds. This alien computer virus took over John Corbin's body and control of the exoskeleton Metal Zero suit. He laid siege to Metropolis and beat Superman to within an inch of his life. Luckily, John Henry Irons just so happened to be one of the co-designers and creators of the Metal Zero exoskeletal suit, and he had the prototype suit, dubbed simply as Steel. Together, Steel and Superman managed to disable Metal Zero and delay the Collector of Worlds' plans for Earth. Next, we look at a couple of Metallo's classic stories. First up, Superman, Secret Origin. There have been a few variations on Metallo's origins over the years. Most of them have been pretty similar, with him somehow undergoing a surgery to save his life but being transplanted into a cybernetic body with a heart of kryptonite. That's usually how it goes, but this is what many consider to be the definitive origin story for Metallo, and it takes place in what is more or less a rebooting or a retelling of Superman's own origins. I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on the storyline because it is basically what the magazine chose to run with as far as Metallo's origins. Suffice it to say, it is a beautifully illustrated story that is also masterfully written. I highly recommend checking it out if you want to know not just all about Metallo, but also about the Man of Steel. We also look at Action Comics Volume 2, Issues 1 through 4. And this is the reboot of the DC Universe, also known as the New 52, where Superman has sort of been written as this vigilante working outside of the law for his formative years, and he's kind of made some enemies, including people in the army and in law enforcement, as well as Lex Luthor. It's a retelling of Metallo's origins that's not really too dissimilar from the one that was just retold a year before in Secret Origin. Not one of my favorites. I don't know. If you're curious, I suppose check it out, but I'm not that big a fan. Metallo's Friends and Foes section features, of course, Superman and Lois Lane, as well as his teammate Reactron and the man who gave him his kryptonite heart, Lex Luthor. Finally, the iconography section looks at some of the other bionic bad guys in the DC Universe. It starts by looking at one of the earliest on-record cybernetic foes in the DC Universe, Biolord, who was ultimately stopped by the Blackhawks when he attempted to destroy all human life on Earth. A criminal known as Nathan Finch, who terrorizes Batman and Gotham City from time to time using his cybernetic enhancements. Earl J. Dukeston, who was a petrochemical worker until an industrial accident turned him into the villainous cyborg, the Duke of Oil. A radio-controlled cyborg originally designed for good until its programming was corrupted, known as Cauldron. Wealthy, brilliant inventor Thaddeus Hoskins, who transplanted his own mind into a robotic body dubbed Headmaster so that he could try to take over humanity and recreate it in his own image. And lastly, Cliff Carmichael, the villainous Thinker, who used a cerebral enhancement cap, also known as his thinking cap, to increase his intellect and sometimes take over the minds of other people. And here we have Metallo, also known as Sergeant John Corbin, one of, I think, Superman's greatest villains, one of his most deadly enemies, at least, for having that heart of kryptonite and everything, and another really great-looking figure in this collection. We're nearing the end of the series here, and they really are going out on a high note for the most part, like I mentioned with Red Hood before him. All kinds of crazy detail on this figure. The paint job is really nicely done this time around, all kinds of different textures, different fleckings. You can see the metallic mint green sort of pieces of his costume that are supposed to be the metal bits have a great metallic flecking to them. It looks awesome. Love the M, how the kryptonite is showing through his open chest plate, all sorts of other awesome bits and pieces and details to point out on this guy. There are some issues I have with him as well, some minor bad points that I will of course touch upon, along with all of the reasons I really do dig this character in the next section, in just a moment. Metallo stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. And so you can compare, here he is next to his arch-nemesis, the Man of Steel, Superman, and in a group shot with all of the other members of Superman's Rogues Gallery. Metallo is another really nice figure in this collection. He is nearly flawless. There are just a few things that I have an issue with, nitpicks if you will, but overall I'm very impressed with him, and I think the good by far outweighs the bad. Beginning with the good as always. Pretty much everything on this guy, to be honest with you. The pose is nice, it's aggressive, sort of generic I guess, but really what else could you do with him? I really love the paint job, I love the deco on this guy, the different colors, the orange and the different greens, the different textures, shadow shading, the sculpting is outstanding. There are so many great little details all over this guy, which of course you can see starting at the base of the figure with the boots, which look like they're made out of some sort of metal alloy. They're a nice glossy sort of metallic green. I like how you can see the plating, the rivets, and then it fades up into that bright, hot, reddish orange, and it's a flatter paint, so it's cool. It looks like a different sort of material. And then you go up the torso and you have, again, that nice mint metallic green for the metallic pieces, and then you have a different shade of green for his tights, I guess, basically. And they look, again, like a fabric. There's great texturing, great detailing. I love the bright yellow M on the belt, just like in the comic book. Again, the sculpting, the musculature, all very well done. The paint job is very cool, too. Lots of different shades and shadows, so all those fine details really stand out. And then the chest piece is really nice. You can see the different plates on the chest piece, and his silver bit in the center there is open, exposing his kryptonite heart, and it's supposed to look as though it's glowing. It's not bad, not great. Love the high collar that he has. Again, that orange color is really awesome. And then the head sculpt, the face, is great. Love how you can see the flesh of his neck, the flesh of his mouth, his teeth inside the mask. The mask itself has a great sculpt. That metallic mint green paint, yet again, all the way around, riveting. It's just really well done. You can see his eyes inside the mask, too. It's extremely faithful to the look in the comic book, and I really appreciate that, and he is a really great looking figure. Moving on to the bad, my biggest issue with the figure has to do with the kryptonite heart on the center of his chest that's glowing. It's a sticker. I wish that it had just been either the chest plate closed, so is that solid silver piece, or hollow the chest out and put a plastic translucent chunk of kryptonite in there, just a little plastic bit inside of him. I think that would have been a neat touch instead of just a sticker. It's not the worst thing in the world, it just bothers me, and it might bother you, but again, it's an overall great figure. The only other issue I think people might have, and this is a nitpick, is it may not be the version of Metallo that you wanted. I can understand that. This costume, this look isn't for everybody. I really dig it, but I could understand if you wanted that more Terminator-looking sort of Metallo with the heart glowing in the center of his chest. And the ugly, nothing on this guy. He is a solid piece of lead, nothing bendable or breakable about him. Overall, Metallo's very good. He's not outstanding just because I have an issue with the fact that he has a sticker on his chest. It just doesn't mean he's an outstanding figure. It says hand-painted. I think it should be either totally hand-painted or, again, have something special going on there. But for what he is, he's really nice. I love having this guy on the shelf. I think he's colorful. I think he looks great opposite Superman. Their colors sort of clash, which is great because they clash on countless occasions. It's also really nice to have him with Lex Luthor, since the two of them sort of go hand in hand no matter what the origin for the character is. I think another good reason to pick him up is because he's the last Superman villain in the collection. That's it. Here's all of them, folks. Believe it or not, that's it for the Superman villains in this collection. I suppose if you wanted to, you could include Mr. Mix's Spitlick in this group shot, so there you go. That's it. Not another one. There might be a couple more Legion of Doom members, but that's it for the Superman Rogues Gallery, as it were. Oh, and another good reason to add Metallo to your personal collection, he's the last Superman character, period, in this entire collection. That's it, everybody. There you go. The entire Superman family in the Eaglemoss series. That's how you know this series is unfortunately coming to an end. But Metallo here is another great way to end this series. Highly recommend him. Add him to your collection. Really cool figure. And I hope you have enjoyed my review of Metallo. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in the series. It's time once again, ladies and gentlemen, for a special edition. I told you they were going to come fast and furious. So here we go. Here's another one. A member of Batman's Rogues Gallery. A shape changer and one of his most infamous villains. I hope you please stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.